Hello and welcome back to Woodturners Journal. I'm Jared Toth, and today I'm going to try to do a real quick project. A lot of my projects usually take me a couple days at least, you know, to do everything, to turn them, to sand them, to finish them. I'm actually going to attempt to, I'm going to do this all in, I'm hoping within an hour. I'm actually hoping to turn a bowl. I'm thinking it's going to be a bowl. It's not a big piece of wood. It is a piece of weeping cherry is what I'm told. I want to thank, there's a guy in Ohio named Adam. He saw my videos and he knows I live in Vegas, and it's kind of hard to get different types of wood out here unless you want to pay an arm and a leg. And this is one of the pieces that he sent me a while ago. And I've been having it just sit here in the shop and dry out. And I just want to thank him for that. It's all appreciated. Like I said, it's harder to get good pieces of wood out here in Vegas. So thank you for that. And I think I'm going to turn a bowl because it's not a real big piece of wood. There's not much I could do with it, and it's really misshaped. So I kind of got to start off on a lower speed here. I'm going to start with my bowl gouge, and I don't know exactly how it's going to look just because of, I don't know once I get into this, because on the other side here there's a big knot with a chunk taken out. So I don't know once I start turning it if there's going to be voids and pieces missing. We'll see. If there is, that may change what I'm going to do. You know, once I get into it, I start deciding how I think this piece should actually look. You know, if you've seen my videos before, you know that I change my mind quite a bit. You know, I think I'll be dead set on something, and as I turn it, I think I like a different look better, and then I'll change my mind. So, but the first start to get there is to round this thing out. So, I'm gonna round it out, and like I said, I'm hoping I could do this really fast. It is in Vegas right now. It's 100 and I think it's at 4. It's supposed to be 113 today, and I am sweating. It's hot, so I just want to quickly. I had to get into the shop and do something. You know, I feel like I really need to turn something, so I'm going to right now. But like I said, I'm hoping this is just a quick hour project. Is my attempt. So I'll get you set up on the camera so you could see exactly what I'm doing, and then we'll go from there. Like I said, because this is so misshaped, you could see it. I have it on a lower speed, and I'm going to use my bowl gouge. And in the beginning here, I'm wearing my full face shield because I don't know what it's going to be like once I get into here. This, you know, this piece has been sitting around. It looks like some of the bark wants to come off. We'll see, but the first thing here is to get it kind of squared up and rounded. So we'll start by doing that. All right, so far I'm liking the shape. I think I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna round it out a little bit more. I'm gonna smooth this out And I think I'm going to keep this basic shape and keep this bark on there. I don't do too many of those natural edge bowls, and I think I kind of like it. We'll see. We'll see how it looks after, you know, who knows? After I hollow it out, maybe it'll be ruined. But I think I like. There's going to be all these voids in it. I think I'm going to keep it. So let me continue to round this a bit. Alright, I like the basic shape. I'm not sure if I said a tenon before or a recess, but I meant I wanted to put a recess on here. So I'm just going to sand it out really fast on the outside, and then I'm going to polish it, and then we'll flip it around on the chuck, and then we'll hollow it out. So let me sand it really fast. This is beautiful. There's also some spalted in here, and that looks really great. When it's finished, it's going to be beautiful. I'm not going to bore you with the whole sanding, but I'm going to sand it down to I don't know, maybe about 600 grit or so, and then when we come back, I'll show you me polishing it up. I'm just going to use the OB Shine Juice. In the last few videos, I've been playing with that, and I really like it. I like the finish on it, and I like how quick you could finish a project. So we're going to do that really fast. But let me finish sanding this up, and then when we come back, we'll be ready to hollow it out. Okay, here we are. I sanded it down to 600 grit, and I have my OB Shine Juice ready to go here. I turned up the lathe just a little bit, and nobody ever talks about this from what I've seen, but to get a really good shine, you should put a couple coats. And even though this feels like it's dried, it actually takes, I think it's about 24 hours to 48 hours to 100% cure. So if you actually wait longer, and I end up taking quadruple zero steel wool and running it after it's cured and just buffing it out with this lightly and then putting on another coat, you end up getting a real deep, nice shine. It's just a suggestion. You don't have to do it. It depends on how much shine you want, but I think it gives a better finish overall. So I'm just going to show you a coat and get this thing shining, looking beautiful, and then when we come back from that, I'll probably let it dry for 15 minutes and do another coat. I won't show you that. But then I'll have it flipped around on the chuck, and we'll start hollowing it out. But let's put this coat on first. You want to apply a little bit of pressure. It's a polish, so you want some friction. that's the first coat. I think I'll switch to a rag rather than a paper towel because it's ripping apart, but I'm going to go ahead, dump some of this in there. Can't hurt it. Alright, I'm going to grab a rag. Let's do it again. Alright, that's looking really good. Like I said, I'm going to let it dry just for 15 minutes or so, and I'm going to end up putting another coat on. But when we come back, I won't show you all that. You got the gist of it here. When we come back, I'll have it flipped around on the chuck, ready to go. But it's looking really good. Alright, I have it flipped around. I polished the outside with the OB Shine Juice, and I have it flipped around. And I'm not sure if you could see, normally I would use my little handled drill bit and then put the depth of where I want it, and I would go in, let this thing turn, and I would basically drill in a hole to the depth I want. There are knots and holes on the end of this, and I fear it getting kind of caught, getting a catch on it, and I feel it would really be dangerous. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and use a Forstner bit, and I'm going to, cheat a little bit and hollow it out and then finish it. It will speed things along anyways, because like I said, it's I think I've been in here longer than an hour, even though the video may not reflect it, with letting it dry 15 minutes, putting on another coat, letting it dry. So it's getting really hot in here. So I'm going to speed this along anyway, so it kind of helps in two manners, but I know where I need to go. I need to go up to here with this, and let's go ahead and hollow this out. Just to show you why I didn't want to just do it. There's a knot right here. It keeps on wanting to catch. So if I would have done that with the hand drill, it would have probably been extremely dangerous. So you got to be careful when you're doing a piece like this. All right, we'll continue on. Now I want to point out something, now that it's all hollowed out. I got to be really careful because there are cracks and holes and pieces of this may come off. Now if you're worried about that, you could use CA glue to squeeze in there and basically hold it together. Just a little bit of an extra reinforcement. I'm not going to do that because I think even if pieces of this come off, I think it's just going to make it look cooler. Having this up here, a couple of holes, I'm not sure if you could see them, a couple of holes right there, and if just, I have a feeling this chunk is going to come off. We'll see, but let's take our bowl gouge and start hollowing this thing out. See how far I want to go out with this. Probably right in that area. Alright, I changed my tool rest so I could get in there a little bit. I'm going to start scooping all this out. I think it looks pretty good. Whew. It is hot. All right, got to sand it out a little bit and then just polish it up. I already showed you how to do it, how to sand it, how to polish it. So when we come back, I'll be done. Well, I lied a little bit. I said when we come back that this was going to be completely finished, and I have now since changed my mind on how I want to do this, because as I started sanding in here, there's two things. I discovered some really punky wood that is brittle and it's falling apart in there, and I did end up adding a little bit of CA glue, and you could also add sanding sealer to try to stabilize it, but I don't have any sanding sealer and I'm not going to buy it because I'm not really the biggest fan of it. But that's a whole other story. But on top of it, the other problem I ran into is at the very bottom, I kind of have some little marks from my chisel, and I'm trying to sand it, and after smacking my knuckle on this edge a couple times, I decided I don't want to do that anymore. It's kind of a tight fit. I have a big hand, and to sit here and sand it is really risky. And I tried sitting here doing it by hand, but that's when I discovered the punky wood and it's falling apart. So I'm gonna kill two birds with one stone. I sat here staring at it, and I decided I have black wood stain. So I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna stain it black, then I'm gonna make basically a real thin epoxy finish coating, and I'm going to dye that black as well and kind of make it, I want to make it a pitch black just inside and just show off the outside is what I think it's going to look pretty cool. That was the best thing I could come up with stabilizing it, not to mention some of these pieces probably in the future, even though I added CA glue, may want to come apart. This will help protect and hold everything together, take care of my little chisel marks on the bottom that I absolutely can't get out without damaging my hand. So that's what we're going to do. So the first step is just to apply a thin black stain that I have. I'll be using this Artisan Premium Coloring. I've used this before in my past projects. I used a purple one with kind of a vase that I made in one of my videos in the past. This is the black one. So we'll apply some of this inside and see what happens. All right, here we are. I have a little bit in this plastic ramekin here with a brush. Just gonna coat it. And that's not what I wanted to happen. A little bit went through a hole on the outside. let that dry, and then we'll whip up the epoxy and then apply that on the inside. Okay, here we are. I've used this before. This is the epoxy that I'm using. You get this at any craft store, hobby store, whatever. They usually sell it or a version of it. You just need an epoxy, and I already have them equal parts of the hardener and then the epoxy kind of poured out into the cups here. Now I'm going to mix them, and I have a little stick to mix it here. I'm also going to add the coloring. Now I want this thing dark, so we'll see. Now, here's a little trick. I'm not sure if I've talked about it in any of my other videos, but I got this, a guy wrote me, and it was actually a good idea. I've tried it since, and if you need to thin out epoxy, in some of my earlier videos, I made mugs, and it was really thick, and it kind of ran a little bit, and I had to sand a ton and then redo it. That's fine. I think I found you put on the thick coat, then you do a sanding and sand it smooth, and then if you thin it with acetone, put another coat of this, of epoxy, and thin it just down with acetone, you could brush it on there nice, and the finish is absolutely perfect. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to do that after I mix this up. Maybe with the coloring, it should be thin enough. I'm not sure. We'll see, but I have it here just in case. Oh, it seems like it's going to be thin enough. I should have gloves on to be doing this, because this stuff, like the name implies, it stains. I got a little bit on me earlier. Now I took it off the chuck as well, because there's little cracks and holes, and it kind of ran out last time. So I'm thinking it will be fine if I brush it on this way. Make sure I coat it all. And it's all right if it runs to the bottom here. I don't mind the thicker bottom if it ends up coming down a little bit. Just make sure you coat it. Get everything the best you can. It's so, there's parts that are so punky in there that it's absolutely just absorbing. All right. Now, I'm not going to show the rest. Now when I come back, it's going to be done. But what I'm going to do from this point is I'm going to let this dry, and I may have to do a light sanding on the inside, but not like before where I smack my knuckles, just a really light one to smooth out anything. Maybe another coat, we'll see, but I'm actually thinking I'm not going to need another coat. I think this will actually be fine. So when we come back, it will then be done. All right, here it is. The project's finally complete, and I was way off. It did not take me an hour to do this, even though I tried, but it probably took me more like a couple days because I ended up not liking, so I did the black inside, and the black's perfect now. But after I did the first coat, I didn't like how it looked. There was some kind of drips. It wasn't perfectly smooth, so I did have to go and sand it. And then I put another layer, and then just letting, you know, I don't like to touch any of that for 24 hours until I feel it's totally cured. So it's just been a little bit, and then now I've totally waxed it. It looks great, and I'm glad I did the epoxy. I could have done a see-through epoxy on the inside, not the black, and that way you could have seen the grain and everything, but I think it kind of looks sharp with the black. Some of you may disagree, but it's my opinion because of how punky it was on the inside. If I would have done the see-through, I feel like you'd have seen all these divots and everything in the wood, and I mean, I could tell, like, that was it. When I put the epoxy in, it was really sucking up all that. That's why it wasn't perfect, and I ended up putting more coats. So I don't know how great it would have turned out using just the see-through epoxy, but you know, if you have a better piece of wood that you're just doing it to protect it and maybe not trying to keep it, hold it together and stabilize it, then maybe try it and it'll work out for you. But I am very happy because now you just focus on the outside. Not to mention, I mean, this whole chunk right here should have popped out. The epoxy's holding it in there. There's a lot to this that the epoxy is really making sure it holds together. So I think it was a good call on doing it. So I think it looks great. I'm glad I kept it a natural edge. And you know, I want to thank Adam in Ohio for sending me this piece of wood. I do appreciate it. Like I said, it's kind of hard to get good wood out here, and I know they're on the east, you know, you have so many varieties, but out here in the desert there's not, you know, too much wood that I have access to without paying a high amount for it. So once again, thank you for that. I always want to thank all of you for watching, and I want to thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I really do appreciate every single one of you. And thanks for writing me. I try to respond to everybody who writes me, you know, and everyone's been giving me great ideas, like suggestions, or just asking me questions about stuff. And you know, I appreciate all that. And any of you that are interested, I also started a Facebook group. It's called Woodturners Journal, and it's basically for anyone that's interested in, you know, wood turning or already wood turns, or, you know, it's just a nice little group to ask questions or show off your work. And, you know, that's kind of where I post my stuff before I even put it out in video. And there's other people on there that it's just an inspiring place for everybody. So at the very least, check it out. And just thanks again for everything. See you next time.